Dear viewers, welcome. Relax and get ready to embark on a journey through the mists of time and into the depths of the ancient world. In this video series, we will explore one of history's greatest and most mysterious figures, the European Hun Emperor Attila the Hun, and his epic battles against the Eastern and Western Roman empires. Imagine yourself listening to stories from a great scholar. I will tell you as if I were there myself. We will look at the events in detail, with all their causes and consequences. You will learn about every turning point in Attila's life, every great battle and every strategic move. At the beginning of this adventure, I will take you back to Attila's birth and youth. Together we will discover what Attila went through on his journey from a childhood spent on horseback in the vast steppes of the Huns to the leadership of a great empire. If you are ready, let's dive into this magical story. Starting with Attila's birth and youth, we will examine how this legendary leader grew up and rose to power. Then, we will detail his ascension to the throne and his conflicts with the Roman empires. In each chapter, we will delve deeper into a different event and try to understand the life and legacy of this great leader. Now, let's go back through the mists of time to the time when Attila was born and grew up. This monumental story is waiting for you. Are you ready? Then, let's begin. Let us begin with the rise of the Huns. Close your eyes, my dear friends, and I will now take you to a fascinating world of vast steppes and distant valleys. In these lands, among the wind-blown grasses, one of history's most feared and admired peoples was born the Huns. The origins of the Huns go back to the depths of Asia. In the 4th century BC, the Huns lived in the vast steppes of Eastern Asia. This land is known for its harsh climate and boundless horizons. The Huns were a nomadic people who managed to survive in this harsh land. They were warriors who grew up on horseback and mastered the bow and arrow. There are many legends about the origins of the Huns. In some stories, the Huns are said to have originated directly from the sky god. Their first leader was protected and guided by a sacred wolf descending from the sky. This legend was told to glorify the strength and courage of the Huns. Towards the end of the 4th century AD, the Huns began a great westward migration from the depths of Asia. This migration was the beginning of events that would change the course of history. The Huns expanded rapidly and reached the gates of Europe. During this period, the Huns were known for their warrior skills and strategic intelligence. Their archery skills terrified their enemies, while their swift mounted troops made their enemies helpless with sudden raids. The rise of the Hun Empire depended on the courage and strategic genius of its great leaders. One of the most important of these leaders was Rugila, Attila's uncle. Rugila played a major role in the expansion of the Huns to the west. Under his leadership, the Huns won great victories against the Roman empires and struck fear into Western Europe. In addition to their warrior skills, the Huns were also masters of diplomacy and treaty making. They consolidated their power through treaties with the Roman empires. Thanks to these agreements, the Huns grew both economically and militarily. After Rugila's death, Attila and his brother Bleda emerged as the leaders of the Hun Empire. Under the leadership of Attila and Bleda, the Huns grew even stronger and terrorized the whole of Europe. Under Attila's leadership, the Hun Empire became one of the most powerful and feared empires in history. Attila's genius and courage brought the Huns to the top. But what did Attila go through until he ascended to the throne? What was the childhood of this fearless Turk like? Dear viewers, close your eyes and take a journey back in time to the late 4th century. In the vast expanse of the great steppes, a child is born, tossing his hair in the breeze. This child is Attila, who will change the course of history. Attila was born in 406, in the heart of the Hun Empire. His birthplace was the vast and wild steppes of what was then Hungary, which is now Hungary. The Huns were a nomadic people who rode, hunted, and fought across this vast land. Attila's birth heralded the beginning of a new era for the Huns. Attila's family was one of the most noble of the Huns. His father, Mundzuk, was part of the Hun royal family. Mundzuk was known as a brave and determined warrior. He was a father who would teach his sons the finer points of war and leadership. Attila's mother, though her name is lost to history, was a strong and wise woman who played a major role in her son's upbringing. Attila's family was steeped in the traditions of the Huns. The Huns were a nomadic people, and their way of life required constant movement. Living in large tents and growing up on horseback, children learned to shoot arrows and use swords from an early age. Attila also followed these traditions. From an early age, he learned the art of war alongside his father and other warriors. Attila's family and upbringing shaped his character. Courage, loyalty, and ruthlessness became his most prominent characteristics. The early death of his father Mundzuk led to Attila and his brother Bleda becoming the leaders of the Hun Empire. After Mundzuk's death, the two brothers grew up under the tutelage of their uncle Rugila. Rugila was the leader of the Hun Empire and raised both brothers to be warriors and leaders. Attila's childhood and youth were filled with years spent on horseback, with bow and sword. In the vast steppes of the great Hun Empire, he grew up a brave warrior. With the courage and leadership skills he gained at a young age, Attila would later become the greatest leader of the Hun Empire. Now, dear viewers, open your eyes and visualize this epic story of Attila's childhood. This story is the foundation for his future great achievements and the wars he would wage against the Roman empires. In the next episode, we will explore Attila's teenage years and his first steps towards leadership. My dear friends, close your eyes now and imagine yourself in the vast steppes of Asia, in a world where the grass waves in the wind and horses run free. Here Attila the Hun, the future leader of the Hun Empire, was growing up in the lap of nature. Attila was born in 406 AD into one of the most powerful and influential Hun families. His father, Mundzuk, was a Hun chief known for his courage and leadership qualities. Attila was brave, intelligent, and eager to learn from an early age. With his birth, there was great joy among the Huns, because everyone believed that Attila would be a great leader. Attila's childhood years were spent roaming freely across the vast steppes and learning about Hun culture. His first educators were his father and uncle Rugila. Rugila was a sage who taught Attila the art of war, strategy, and leadership. From an early age, Attila learned to ride a horse, shoot an arrow, and wield a sword. His training not only developed his physical abilities, but also strengthened him mentally and emotionally. The education system of the Huns was based on developing the warrior skills of the young and preparing them for leadership. Attila gained both theoretical and practical knowledge during this training process. The Hun warriors often put him to tests during his training. These tests tested his courage, intelligence, and ability to make quick decisions. Attila passed these difficult tests successfully every time and won the admiration of his trainers. One of the most important moments in Attila's education occurred during a special lesson given to him by his uncle Rugila. Rugila showed Attila a large map and explained the borders of the Hun Empire and the neighboring peoples. Through this map, Attila learned the history of the Huns, their enemies and allies. This knowledge would be vital for his future leadership. Attila's training was not limited to martial arts and strategy. He also learned about Hun culture, mythology, and religion. He gained an in-depth knowledge of the gods, rituals, and legends of the Huns. Attila used this knowledge to better understand and unite his people. His wisdom and deep faith were one of the cornerstones of his success as leader of the Huns. During his youth, Attila had the opportunity to meet many different peoples and cultures. The Huns often traded with other nomadic peoples and settled civilizations. During these trade journeys, Attila learned different languages and explored the customs of different cultures. These experiences broadened his worldview and honed his diplomatic skills. Attila's youth was one of the most important periods on his path to leadership. During these years, he grew stronger both physically and mentally. His courage, wisdom, and leadership skills laid the foundation for his future victories. Attila would skillfully use the knowledge and experience he gained at a young age to lead the Hun Empire. My friends, close your eyes now and imagine yourself in the vast steppes, in the huge tents of the Huns, and the camps where the thunderous voices of the warriors echo. It is here, at the heart of the Hun Empire, that you will feel the immense power of Attila's rule. The Hun Empire, despite being a nomadic society, had a highly complex and effective administrative structure. The basic administrative unit of the empire was the military groups known as the army. These groups formed the cornerstone of Hun society. Each army was led by a leader who reported directly to the emperor. These leaders were also important figures, known for their bravery in battle and their leadership skills. Attila, as one of the most powerful leaders of the Hun Empire, masterfully managed this structure. His leadership was not limited to military strategies, but was also characterized by his diplomatic skills and ability to unite his people. Attila knew that leadership was important not only on the battlefield, but also in the daily life of his people and in diplomatic relations. Under Attila's leadership, the Hun Empire forged a strong unity between different peoples and cultures. This unity was the result of Attila's leadership skills. Under his leadership, the Hun Empire became not only a military power, but also an economic and cultural center. To improve the welfare of his people, Attila expanded trade routes and established strong trade relations with other civilizations. Attila's style of rule was based on justice and discipline. He was a leader who gained the trust of his people. He always made fair decisions and took into account the needs of his people. Under his rule, justice and order were restored in the Hun Empire. This justice and order ensured that the Hun Empire remained strong for many years. Another important feature of the Hun Empire under Attila's leadership was its military power. Attila was a great strategist and warrior. Under his leadership, the Hun armies won countless victories and expanded the empire's borders. Attila's military victories demonstrated his leadership skills and strategic acumen. He always managed to develop a superior strategy against his enemies. Another important element of the Hun Empire's administrative structure was its diplomatic relations. Attila was a leader also known for his diplomatic skills. He established strong diplomatic relations with different peoples and civilizations. These relations increased the power and influence of the Hun Empire. Attila always stood out as a strong negotiator in diplomatic talks and protected the interests of the Hun Empire. Under Attila's rule, the Hun Empire also became a cultural center. He attached great importance to the cultural values of his people and worked to preserve them. Under Attila's leadership, art, music, and literature flourished in the Hun Empire. The Huns engaged in cultural exchanges with other civilizations, preserving their own cultural identity. When you delve deep into the history books, there are some stories that leave an echo that makes your heart tremble. Here is one of them, Attila and Bleda's brotherly bonds and their joint rule. Close your eyes and imagine yourself in the shadows of these two legendary leaders. History was being made as the heart of the Hun Empire fluttered with great power and ambition in the hands of these two brothers. Around 406 BC, when Attila and Bleda took over the Hun Empire, the foundations of a legend were laid. The two brothers were closely linked not only by blood, but also by their military strategy and management skills. Attila's courage and Bleda's diplomacy were key to the Hun Empire's greatest success. Their joint leadership allowed them to skillfully solve the empire's internal and external problems. The brothers' governance was a model of balance and harmony. Attila's warrior spirit and Bleda's strategic acumen led them to work in great harmony both in domestic affairs and in foreign wars. This harmony enabled the Hun Empire to become a great military and diplomatic power. While Attila was known as a courageous leader on the battlefield, Bleda stood out as a master negotiator in diplomatic relations. Under Attila and Bleda, the Hun Empire dominated a vast geography. Under their rule, the borders of the empire stretched from the Great Wall of China in the east to the Roman Empire in the west. The brothers managed to keep different ethnic groups and cultures together in this vast geography. Both leaders oversaw local governments in various parts of the empire and responded to the needs of the peoples in those regions. Attila's military campaigns increased the Hun Empire's military power, intimidating rival empires and kingdoms. Bleda, on the other hand, played an important role in diplomatic relations, maintaining a balance with the states surrounding the Huns. This balance gave the Hun Empire an important advantage in international relations. The brothers' cooperation also played a prominent role in their relations with the Roman Empire. One of the most important moments of their rule together was the first agreements and negotiations with the Roman Empire. Attila and Bleda developed both military and diplomatic strategies in their relations with Rome. During this period, the Hun Empire put pressure on the Roman Empire, negotiating for territory and rewards. The combined power of these two powerful leaders against the Roman Empire was perceived as a major threat. Under Attila and Bleda, the Hun Empire also managed internal affairs successfully. It was thanks to the brothers' leadership skills that they were able to harmonize the different ethnic groups within the empire. This harmony ensured that peace and order was maintained within Hun society. Furthermore, reforms in the internal structure of the Hun Empire allowed it to be governed more effectively. However, as in any story, the joint rule of Attila and Bleda was not without its difficulties. Internal and external pressures strained the brothers' relationship at times. In particular, pressures from different factions within the empire and rival leaders created difficulties in their rule. However, the brothers overcame these difficulties and maintained and expanded the sovereignty of the empire. My dear friends, the joint rule of Attila and Bleda is one of the most important periods in the history of the Hun Empire. These two great leaders left their mark on history with both military and diplomatic achievements. Their story shows us how strong the bonds of leadership, strategy, and brotherhood can be. In the next chapter, we will explore these diplomatic successes, Attila's rise to solo leadership, and his epic battles with Rome. If you are ready, let's continue on this fascinating journey. Attila's rule brought major changes not only on the battlefields but also in the internal workings of the state. The Hun Empire became more centralized with Attila's reforms. The empire, which had previously had a very loose administration, became more disciplined and organized with Attila's vision. These reforms not only strengthened the internal structure of the empire, but also played a critical role in ensuring stability along its borders. One of Attila's first reforms was the reorganization of the military structure. Under Attila, the Hun army was made more professional and effective. The army, which had previously been more disorganized and localized, was brought under a centralized command under Attila's leadership. With this new organization, the fighting power of the army increased and discipline was ensured. Attila meticulously controlled each unit of the army as he planned and executed his military operations. The importance he attached to the training of his soldiers was the key to the Hun Empire's victories in war. Attila's administrative reforms also brought great change. Local administrators in different parts of the empire were directly supervised by Attila. This allowed the local authorities to have a closer relationship with the central government. by establishing a more effective system of administration within the empire. Attila limited the powers of local rulers and consolidated the authority of the central government. These reforms reduced the complexity of the Hun Empire's internal structure and increased the power of the central government. In addition to his internal reforms, Attila's skill in diplomatic relations was unsurpassed. Attila had great skills not only as a warrior but also as a diplomat. His mastery of diplomatic relations enabled the Hun Empire to be recognized as an influential power in the international arena. Attila displayed great strategic acumen in his negotiations with the Roman Empire and other neighboring kingdoms. His dealings with the Roman Empire are a prime example of Attila's diplomatic skills. When the Roman Empire was weak, Attila led the Huns to Rome's borders and made significant gains in relations with Rome. However, Attila's threats against the Roman Empire were not only a military strategy, but also a diplomatic one. Attila showed great strategic skill in his negotiations with the Roman Empire, giving the empire an advantageous position in treaties with Rome. Another important step in diplomatic relations was Attila's use of the weak and divided Western Roman Empire to forge alliances with various European kingdoms. Using these alliances, the Hun Empire increased its pressure against the Roman Empire. Through these alliances, Attila developed an effective strategy in various parts of Europe. These alliances with various kingdoms across the vast borders of the Hun Empire demonstrated Attila's skills in international diplomacy and strategy. Attila's frequent agreements and alliances, especially in his diplomatic relations with the Byzantine Empire and the Western Roman Empire, increased the international influence of the Hun Empire. Through these diplomatic relations, Attila was able to balance his empire's relations with the surrounding states. These relationships maximized the strategic advantages of the Hun Empire and established Attila as a respected leader in the international arena. My dear friends, Attila's reforms of the Hun Empire and his mastery of diplomatic relations are important turning points in the empire's history. Attila's visionary leadership and strategic acumen built the Hun Empire into a powerful state and left an unforgettable mark on history. In the next chapter, we will take a detailed look at Attila's wars with the Roman Empire and their impact on the Hun Empire. If you are ready, let's continue this exciting journey. In the vast lands of the great Hun Empire, the sky had darkened and storms had begun. In these dark days, we were on the verge of a great change in the empire. Attila and Bleda, as two brothers, were determining the direction of the Hun Empire. Together, as they shared the rule of this great empire, many events took place that left their mark on the stage of history. However, in a twist of fate, the relationship between these two brothers turned into a tragedy that profoundly affected the future of the empire. Attila and Bleda's rule was initially harmonious and successful. The two brothers made important decisions in the governance of the Hun Empire and strategized together to expand the empire's borders. However, over time, their relationship became strained. This tension foreshadowed a growing conflict, overshadowed by political ambitions and power struggles. Bleda, as Attila's brother, played an important role in the empire. Together, their joint leadership shaped the Hun Empire's strategies in warfare and diplomacy. However, Attila's leadership style and personal ambitions increasingly complicated Bleda's relationship with the leadership. Attila's vision for the future of the empire differed from Bleda's, and this difference complicated their relationship. One day, across the vast territories of the Hun Empire, dark news spread. Bleda's death shocked the entire empire. It was a turning point in the history of the Hun Empire and marked the beginning of Attila's rise as sole ruler. Bleda's death created a significant vacuum in the empire's leadership, and filling it became a challenge that would test Attila's leadership skills. In the days following the death of Attila's brother, all eyes of the empire were on Attila. After Bleda's death, Attila ascended the throne as sole ruler of the Hun Empire. In this new era, Attila's leadership style and strategies played an important role in shaping the future of the empire. After his brother's death, Attila retained complete control of the empire and worked with great determination to further strengthen the Hun Empire. During Attila's reign as sole ruler, great changes took place across the empire's borders. Attila reorganized the inner workings of the empire, adopting a more centralized style of government. These changes affected the empire's strategies in warfare and diplomacy. Attila's leadership made the Hun Empire a more influential power on the international stage. The death of his brother Bleda heralded Attila's rise as sole ruler, as well as changes in the internal structure of the Hun Empire. During this period, Attila reshaped the internal workings and external relations of the empire, implementing strategies to expand and strengthen its borders. These strategies increased the international influence of the Hun Empire and reinforced Attila's role on the stage of history. The death of Attila's brother Bleda was not only a personal loss, but also the beginning of a major change in the history of the Hun Empire. It was a period that tested Attila's leadership skills and strategic acumen. Attila's leadership during this period determined the future of the Hun Empire and left an unforgettable mark on history. My dear friends, the death of Attila's brother Bleda and his rise as sole ruler is an important turning point in the history of the Hun Empire. It not only demonstrated Attila's leadership skills and strategic acumen, but also provided important clues to the future of the empire. In the next installment, we will take a detailed look at Attila's wars with the Roman Empire and their impact on the Hun Empire. If you are ready, let's continue this exciting journey. In the vast steppes of the great Hun Empire, amidst the great tents, the heart beating in Attila's chest was making great decisions that would determine the future of the empire. At that moment, the fall of Western Rome and the rise of the Byzantine Empire foreshadowed a clash woven by the fine threads of fate between two powers that would shape the great battle of history. The Byzantine Emperor Theodosius II, despite his young age, fought with great determination to protect and expand his empire. This struggle left unforgettable traces throughout history. After the death of his brother Bleda, Attila, as the sole ruler of the Hun Empire, was taking great steps to expand and strengthen its borders. However, the expanding territories of the Hun Empire came into direct conflict with the sovereignty of the Byzantine Empire. This was the harbinger of an inevitable confrontation between the two great empires. This confrontation was the beginning of events that would change the course of history. Theodosius II was the young and energetic emperor of the Byzantine Empire. When he came to the throne, he drew attention to the Byzantine Empire's military and diplomatic strategies. Theodosius showed great determination to defend and expand his empire. However, the Hun Empire's relations with the Western Roman Empire posed a new threat to the Byzantine Empire. This threat caused the Byzantine Empire to reconsider its strategies to protect its borders. The first clashes between Attila and the Byzantine Emperor Theodosius II were an important turning point in history. As the expanding territories of the Hun Empire threatened the Byzantine Empire's borders, Theodosius' strategic moves shaped his efforts to respond to these threats. Theodosius strengthened his defensive strategies and increased his military preparations against the Huns' attacks on his territory. During this period, Attila's strategic moves against the Byzantine Empire shook the military and diplomatic balance of the empire. Using the military power of the Hun Empire, Attila applied various pressures on the borders of the Byzantine Empire. These pressures affected the Byzantine Empire's strategic moves and military defense plans. Theodosius restructured the military organization of the Byzantine Empire to strengthen its defensive strategies against Attila's attacks. The Byzantine army underwent various reforms in order to defend more effectively against the Huns' attacks. These reforms increased the military capacity of the Byzantine Empire and made it more resilient to the pressure of the Huns. The conflicts between Attila and Theodosius II had a major impact both militarily and diplomatically. The Huns' attacks on the Byzantine Empire influenced the Byzantine Empire's strategic and military decisions. Theodosius made several diplomatic moves to respond to the Huns' attacks and reorganized his relations with the Hun Empire. As a result of these conflicts, Attila's strategies against the Byzantine Empire and Theodosius' defensive measures shaped the relations between the two great empires. The military might of Attila's Hun Empire and the defensive strategies of Theodosius' Byzantine Empire had a major impact on the stage of history during this period. These conflicts revealed the complexity of the relations between the Hun Empire and the Byzantine Empire and the strategic moves of the two great powers. My dear friends, the first battles between Attila and Theodosius II are an important turning point in the history of the two great empires. They highlight the complexity and historical significance of the relationship between the Hun Empire and the Byzantine Empire, describing a period shaped by Attila's military strategies and Theodosius' defensive measures. In the next chapter, we will take a closer look at Attila's wars with the Roman Empire and their impact on the Hunnic Empire. If you are ready, let's continue on this exciting journey. Come, close your eyes and let's go on a historical time travel. Deep in the depths of time, on a cold and dark winter night, a fire burned in Attila's great tent amid the flickering light of the stars in the sky. Inside the tent, a large map hung on the wall, marking the Hun Empire's dreams of expansion and the vulnerable points of the Roman Empire. On this night, as the Huns prepared for a great campaign, Attila scrutinized their strategic plans. These campaigns would target the heart of the Roman Empire, make Attila's name known throughout Europe, and leave a deep impression on history. By the spring of 441, the Hun army had completed its preparations. The soldiers under Attila's command were ready for the campaign, clad in iron armor, spears and shields at the ready, their fighting spirit high. You can see that the Huns had a dazzling military discipline on this night, when every soldier felt the spirit of battle and victory. An epic of history would be written. The Huns began their advance into the Balkan Peninsula, targeting cities and fortresses hidden deep in the forest. Attila's army moved quickly and efficiently across the plains of the Balkans. One by one, the Huns targeted the Roman Empire's defenseless cities and fortresses, making a major strategic move. The Roman Empire was caught off guard by these sudden and powerful attacks. The speed of the Huns was able to overcome Rome's traditional defense strategies, causing great confusion and panic in the border regions of the Roman Empire. Indeed, Attila advanced as far as Katalka, a district of Constantinople. Attila's Balkan campaigns seriously shook the Roman Empire's military and diplomatic strategies. The Roman Empire had to develop new strategies to counter these swift and powerful attacks. While the defenses of the cities were strengthened, various allies were sought to form an effective response to Attila's strategic moves. Working day and night, Rome's military leaders developed new tactics to counter Attila's campaigns. Attila's war strategies during the Balkan campaigns demonstrated his military genius and the fighting capabilities of the Hun Empire. Attila showed great flexibility and creativity in his battle tactics. The Huns were able to break through the Roman Empire's defenses with night raids, sudden attacks, and surprise maneuvers. These tactics consolidated the Huns' superiority on the battlefield and put the military leaders of the Roman Empire in a difficult position. Another important element in Attila's war strategies was to target the weak points of his enemies and use every advantage on the battlefield. By acting in great unison during battle, the Huns were able to constantly surprise their enemies. Attila's war tactics etched his name in history in golden letters and demonstrated the military might of the Hun Empire to the whole of Europe. The Balkan campaigns of 441 to 442 cemented Attila's and the Hun Empire's place on the stage of history. The cities and fortresses of the Roman Empire on the Balkan Peninsula became vulnerable to the powerful attacks of the Huns. These campaigns caused the Roman Empire to rethink its military and diplomatic strategies, and Attila's name spread throughout Europe. Attila's Balkan campaigns exposed the Roman Empire's weakness against the Hun Empire. They highlighted Attila's military skills and strategic genius and caused the Roman Empire to reshape its defensive strategies. The Balkan campaigns were a major turning point that changed the course of history and announced the power of the Hun Empire throughout Europe. Sometimes history changes overnight, sometimes it is shaped after long and grueling negotiations. In the summer of 443, on a hot and humid day, the gates of Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, welcomed Attila's envoys. Once a city of great splendor, both for its historical and strategic importance, it was now in a state of great uncertainty under pressure from the Hun Empire. Attila would use this pressure both as a strategy and as a show of strength. When Attila's commanders arrived at Margus, today's Pirot, southeast of Rome, the atmosphere was tense. Attila would impose the Treaty of Margus on the Byzantine Empire to demonstrate both his military might and diplomatic skill. This treaty was a critical juncture for Attila to consolidate both his political and military strategies. By crowning his military successes with diplomatic acumen, Attila aimed to consolidate the dominance of the Hun Empire. The Treaty of Margus was shaped by the weakness of the Byzantine Empire and the military success of the Hun Empire. Using his victory and power as a reward, Attila was able to impose peace terms on Byzantium. This process involved difficult negotiations and diplomatic games. The government officials of the Byzantine Empire were forced to accept the terms of the treaty under Attila's show of force and military pressure. In the process of signing the treaty, Attila's diplomats and representatives of Byzantium engaged in intense negotiations. Attila, with his unique sense of diplomacy, set the terms of the treaty in order to reinforce Byzantium's dependence on him. The representatives of the Byzantine Empire were in a very difficult situation during these negotiations, as Attila's demands could seriously undermine the prestige and sovereignty of the Roman Empire. After the signing of the Treaty of Margus, the Byzantine Empire was forced to fulfill Attila's demands. Here are the salient terms of this treaty. High reparations. Byzantium agreed to pay Attila a large compensation. These indemnities determined the Byzantine Empire's financial obligations to the Huns and were intended to cover Attila's war expenses. Byzantium was forced to pay these reparations, a burden that severely affected its domestic economy. Peace and trade relations. The treaty established a peace agreement between the two powers, allowing both sides to mutually end wars and regulate trade relations. The Byzantine Empire granted Attila passage through its territory and allowed the Huns to move freely in the region. Release of prisoners of war. Byzantium agreed to release prisoners of war held by the Huns. This condition was accepted as a sign of Attila's military victory and reinforced Byzantium's loyalty to the Huns. The Treaty of Margus was considered a major turning point in history. This diplomatic move of Attila demonstrated the power and influence of the Hun Empire. As a result of this treaty, the Byzantine Empire acknowledged the influence of the Hun Empire in the region and recognized Attila's military success. Following the signing of the treaty, relations between the Byzantine Empire and the Hun Empire settled into a peaceful pattern for a while. However, this period of peace continued to shape both sides' strategic moves and diplomatic relations. With this treaty, Attila consolidated the Roman Empire's weakness and his own strength, and went on to be remembered as one of the most important figures in history. The year was 447, and within the imposing walls of Constantinople, a bargain was being struck for peace and security. This was a time when the Byzantine Empire was known for its tribute payments and diplomatic tensions under pressure from the Hun Empire. Attila, with his strategic acumen, had analyzed the Byzantine Empire's weaknesses very well, and as a result of this analysis, he had made Byzantium dependent on him. Let us now take a look at the background of these diplomatic moves and payment. After the Treaty of Margus, Attila imposed an annual tribute payment to the Byzantine Empire. This tribute became a huge obligation that affected not only the financial resources of Byzantium, but also the prestige of the Byzantine Empire. Attila's strategy was intended both to test Byzantium's military and economic strength, and to enable the Hun Empire to gain more power in the region. The Byzantine Empire was under immense pressure in determining the amount to be paid in tribute. Attila's demands severely affected the Byzantine financial budget. This disrupted the internal economic balance of the Byzantine Empire and created unrest among the population. The reparations demanded by Attila were a sign not only of military victory but also of diplomatic pressure. The tribute payments reinforced the Byzantine Empire's dependence on the Huns and further consolidated Attila's rule. But the tribute payments were not just an economic obligation, they were also part of diplomatic tensions and negotiations. The government officials of the Byzantine Empire were in a constant process of negotiations to meet Attila's demands. This process, although sometimes tense and difficult, was aimed at achieving a kind of balanced peace between the two sides. Attila's diplomatic strategies profoundly affected the internal workings of the Byzantine Empire and its international relations. The envoys of the Byzantine Empire had to perform various diplomatic maneuvers to meet Attila's demands. These negotiations often led to tensions and disputes between the two great powers. Attila managed to intervene in Byzantium's internal affairs and consolidate his own interests. During this period, it became both a diplomatic and strategic obligation for the Byzantine Empire to meet Attila's demands. Tribute payments had a profound impact on both the domestic and foreign policies of the Byzantine Empire. Domestically, it led to economic pressures and popular discontent. A large part of Byzantium's economic resources was devoted to tribute payments to the Huns, which restricted investment in other parts of the Byzantine Empire. These payments also affected the Byzantine Empire's military expenditure, as they limited Byzantium's military capacity and security. Externally, Attila's influence on Byzantium became even more pronounced. The Byzantine Empire was forced to meet Attila's demands, and this allowed the Hun Empire to gain more power in the region. Attila's power influenced the Byzantine Empire's strategic decisions and regional relations. The pressure of the Hun Empire caused the Byzantine Empire to reconsider its strategic plans in international relations. My dear friends, the tribute paid by Byzantium to the Huns and the diplomatic tensions during this process constituted one of the important turning points of history. Attila's strategic acumen and diplomatic skill exposed the weakness of the Byzantine Empire and the strength of the Hun Empire. Tribute payments shaped relations and regional balances between the two great powers. This story is a reflection not only of a diplomatic struggle, but also of balances of power and strategic moves. Attila's diplomatic skills and the reactions of the Byzantine Empire in the process occupy an important place on the stage of history. The year is 449, and the Hun Empire's sphere of dominion covers most of Eurasia, but Attila now set his sights on Rome, the glorious capital of the Western Roman Empire. The great Hunnic king's turn towards Western Rome heralded not only a military move, but also a diplomatic and strategic one. Get ready to discover what lies behind this great move, how Western Rome strategized in response, and how Attila's first contacts with this great empire took shape. Attila began to pose a threat to the Western Roman Empire, making full use of the military and diplomatic potential of the Hun Empire. As the Western Roman Empire struggled with its weakening central authority and internal turmoil, Attila's move became a direct threat to Rome's security. Attila's move would increase the pressure of the Hun Empire on the Western Roman Empire and play a decisive role in how Rome would respond to this situation. Attila's advance towards Western Rome was a reflection of the military strategies of the Hunnic Empire. The Huns were known for moving quickly and efficiently. Attila's army organized a westward sweeping raid that reached the western borders of the Roman Empire. This military campaign challenged Rome's defenses and posed a major threat to cities and towns. This first major move of Attila against Western Rome led to the first contacts between the two great powers. The Roman Empire had to think about what to do against this threat from Attila. Officials of the Roman Empire began to make contact through various diplomatic channels to understand how seriously Attila's military strategies should be taken. These contacts were made to determine how Rome would respond to Attila's demands. Attila held various negotiations with Rome's diplomatic representatives. These negotiations were intended to discuss how the Roman Empire would deal with Hun forces advancing to the borders of Western Rome. Attila's demeanor during this process was both threatening and open to negotiation. The Roman Empire's diplomats tried to devise various strategies to meet Attila's demands and avoid conflict. However, Attila's dominance over the Hun Empire weakened Rome's hand in these negotiations. In responding to Attila's demands, the Western Roman Empire had to carefully shape its military and diplomatic strategies. The Roman Empire used various diplomatic maneuvers to alleviate Attila's pressure and preserve its own sovereignty. These maneuvers included strategies such as strengthening Rome's western borders, providing military reinforcements, and various responses to Attila's demands. Attila's strategic moves during this period shook the Roman Empire's confidence in its western borders and caused Rome to withdraw its military forces to the border region. The Roman Empire's military strategies were reshaped to create a defense against Attila's advance and to ensure Rome's internal security. Attila's orientation towards and first contacts with the Western Roman Empire constituted an important turning point in history. During this period, the Roman Empire's military and diplomatic strategies revealed how Attila responded to the threat of the Hun Empire, and how it affected the balance between the two great powers. Attila's move tested the Roman Empire's borders and internal security, while at the same time increasing the Hun Empire's regional influence. My dear friends, in the next chapter we will examine Attila's impact on the Roman Empire and other important events that took place during this period. Exploring these great events of history together will give us the opportunity to learn important lessons from the depths of the past. Now let's take this story one step further and explore Attila's impact on the Roman Empire in more detail. Now we are going to take a deep journey out of the dusty pages of history and into the exciting year 451. During this period, we will delve deep into the Battle of Catilinum, a great conflict that decided the fate of Europe. Attila's great campaign into Gaul and the battles that followed were one of the most turbulent moments in history. Let's embark on an unforgettable journey into the dusty atmosphere of this legendary battle and its heroic days. I am excited to share this great moment of history with you like a sage. The year 451. Like a storm sweeping across Europe, the shadow of the Hun Empire rises over it. This great empire, led by Attila the Hun, was moving beyond the borders of Rome and heading towards the fertile lands of Gaul. This great campaign was not only a military campaign, but also a turning point, a great test for the ancient civilizations of Europe. Now, are we ready to discover this historic moment in all its splendor? Attila's march into Gaul was a strategic stroke of genius. It would go down in history as one of the greatest military campaigns of all time, the culmination of the Hun Empire's military prowess. Given the riches and strategic importance of Gaul, Attila aimed to penetrate Rome's weakened defenses. This campaign became a great opportunity to demonstrate Attila's military genius and the power of the Hun Empire to all of Europe. The Hun army advanced rapidly into the fertile lands of Gaul. With the start of this campaign, Attila's military strategies and battle tactics became a matter of great curiosity. With warrior discipline at its highest level, the Huns advanced rapidly into the interior of Gaul. This great campaign was not just a military expedition, but a demonstration of the power and capabilities of the Hun Empire. Attila's great campaign in Gaul posed a great threat to the Western Roman Empire and its allies. The coalition that Rome formed to counter this threat was considered one of the largest military units in history. Roman Emperor Valentinian I and the commanders of Western Rome united to counter Attila's threat. In addition to Rome, this alliance had the support of the Visigoths, Franks, Burgundians, and other barbarian tribes. This military coalition prepared a massive defense to counter Attila's campaign in Gaul. Rome's military strategists carefully watched Attila's movements and devised an appropriate defense plan. This plan aimed to assemble a large military force and stop the advance of the Hun Empire. Rome's allies played an important role in this struggle, preparing to counter Attila's expedition into Gaul. And then came the big moment, the Battle of Catilinum. This great battle erupted in the hot summer days of 451 and has been remembered as a conflict that left its mark on history. Catilinum was a region in the northeast of modern-day France, where the forces of Rome and its allies faced off against those of the Hun Empire. It was a battle of civilizations. The outbreak of war marked a moment when the whole of Europe held its breath. Attila's army, a huge force of many warriors, clashed with a coalition of Rome and its allies. The Battle of Catilinum marked a challenge of the highest caliber of military strategy, battle tactics, and leadership skills. It was the ultimate test of both Attila's military genius and Rome's defensive capabilities. The Battle of Catilinum went down in history as a long and difficult conflict. In the course of the battle, both sides suffered heavy losses. Attila's army struggled against the strong defenses of Rome and its allies. The war was complicated by the efforts of the Roman Empire and its allies to stop Attila's advance. Attila tried to use his strategic acumen and military skills to achieve significant successes in the war. However, the combined might of Rome and its allies was able to halt the advance of the Hun Empire in this campaign. The Battle of Catilinum was a turning point in which Attila's military strategies and Rome's defensive capabilities were tested. After this major battle, Attila's pressure on the Western Roman Empire eased somewhat. After the Battle of Catilinum, Attila's pressure on the Western Roman Empire eased somewhat. This great battle had a profound impact on the military and political balance in Europe. Europeans celebrated for weeks as Attila and his army returned to Hun lands. To them, Attila had suffered a great defeat and would never set foot on Roman soil again. But the Romans did not fully understand the speed of the Hun army and the genius of Attila the Great Turk. Indeed, only 10 months later, Attila would enter Italy like lightning with a much larger army. Ah, my dear friends, let us now approach the flow of time with a little more interest and attention. We will take a deep journey into Attila's great Italian campaign and its consequences. Let us dive into the details of Attila's great expedition to the fertile lands of Italy in those legendary days, when the Roman Empire was living in fear and despair. Are you ready? Let's look at this great moment in history with the wisdom of a sage and in all its details. As a sage, I feel as if I am lost in the winds of that period, because now I will tell you about Attila's Italian campaign. After the victorious battle on the plain of Catiline, Attila gathered his army and returned to the Hun capital of Budin. The Europeans rejoiced as if they had won a victory. They organized weeks of festivities, they ate and drank, They were happy to have driven Attila out of their lands. But far away from these celebrations on the steppes, the Huns were sharpening their swords. Attila was preparing to enter Italy with the largest army history had ever seen. Just 10 months after that bloody battle on the plain of Catalonia, Attila had prepared his plans and gathered his army. And suddenly one night, like a bolt of lightning, they rode into Italy. It was then that the peaceful landscapes of Europe turned into a storm. Like a whirlwind, Attila set out from the rich lands of Gaul into the warm and windswept lands of Italy. This great campaign was to be a campaign that would leave its mark on history, reaching as far as the glamorous cities of Rome, where he felt safe. Attila's great campaign into Italy was not only a military campaign, but also part of a strategic move. Attila aimed to add the riches and strategic importance of Italy to his own territory by wearing down the defense capacity of Western Rome. This campaign was a great opportunity to showcase Attila's military genius and the power of the Hun Empire. Attila was determined to break through the weakened defenses of the Roman Empire and seize the riches of Italy. The Hun army advanced rapidly, with the mobility and discipline of a nomadic lifestyle. Using his military acumen, Attila strategically planned his advance to breach the Roman Empire's defenses. As he advanced into the interior of Italy, he targeted the important cities of Rome. In this campaign, Attila aimed to strike fear into his enemies through both military and psychological strategies. Once in Italy, Attila's army targeted the Roman Empire's most vulnerable cities. Attila's military forces fell like an avalanche on the historic cities of Rome. The fertile lands of Italy were left defenseless in the face of the immense power of the Hun army. This great campaign struck a deep blow to the heart of Rome, and most of the cities were sacked. Attila's army wreaked havoc, terrorizing the cities. Cities were devastated by the Huns' relentless attacks. Attila's military forces attacked the cities quickly and effectively, carrying out massive robbery. In this dark period of history, a major blow was struck at the heart of the Roman Empire. Attila's ruthless attacks marked the beginning of an era that called into question Rome's capacity to defend itself. Attila's campaign in Italy led to an extremely difficult period for the Roman Empire. Rome's defense capacity was put to the ultimate test in the face of Attila's attacks. However, the Roman Empire managed to survive in the face of this great threat. Although Attila wreaked havoc, he failed to strike a lasting blow at the heart of the Roman Empire. Attila's Italian campaign was one of the greatest threats to the Roman Empire in its history. Following this campaign, the Roman Empire underwent a period of reorganization to counter Attila's raids. Rome made a great effort to overcome the difficulties of this period. Attila's great campaign caused the Roman Empire to reconsider its military strategies and defense methods. Attila's Italian campaign was a major turning point in the history of both Europe and the Roman Empire. It represented a moment when Attila's military strategies and the power of the Hun Empire reached their peak. The Roman Empire made a great effort to counter Attila's great threat. Attila's great campaign had a profound impact on the military and political balance of Europe. The year is 452. The heart of Rome is beating fast. This great city is on the brink of a great threat. Attila had struck fear throughout Europe, and the immense power of the Hun Empire was at Rome's gates. After years of conquest, burning cities and plundering lands, Attila's eyes were set on the holy cities of Rome. Rome was not just a city, but the center of an empire and a religion. Attila's presence created panic and fear in this holy city. The Hun army surrounded Rome and laid siege to the city. The walls of Rome seemed almost helpless in the face of the huge army of the Huns. The people of Rome were making every effort to strengthen the city's defenses, but Attila's military might was overwhelming Rome's mighty walls. Under mortal threat, the city was looking for both a military and diplomatic solution. It was at such a time that a bold step was taken to ensure Rome's peace and salvation. Pope Leo I, as the supreme spiritual leader of Christianity, took it upon himself to protect the city and its people from this grave danger. As the holy protector of Rome, Pope Leo had the courage to stand up to Attila. This was an act of courage and leadership that could only be expected of a pope. Pope Leo's decision to confront Attila struck a fine balance between courage and diplomacy. The dusty pages of history record that the Pope addressed Attila and began direct negotiations with him. Pope Leo I had shown great courage for his people. He traveled to the Hun camp to meet Attila and knelt before him, demanding a deal for the future of his people. The meeting between Pope Leo and Attila was not just a diplomatic meeting, but a moment that changed the course of history. Attila was a leader who had proven his great power and military superiority over Rome. But the courage shown by Pope Leo had the potential to bring about change despite Attila's immense power. During the meeting, Pope Leo offered Attila some conditions that would prevent the surrender of Rome and bring about a peaceful solution. Attila listened carefully to the Pope's speeches, and as a strong leader who wanted Rome to surrender, he attached great importance to this meeting. Pope Leo's speeches may have awakened a sense of compassion and humanity in Attila, because after this meeting Attila decided to give up the conquest of Rome. Pope Leo I's bold move in front of Attila saved Rome and changed the fate of the city. A major attack on Rome by Attila is considered by many to be a turning point in history, but Pope Leo's diplomatic skill and courage managed to avert this great catastrophe. Italy was spared a major threat, and Rome's history continued thanks to Pope Leo's tremendous show of leadership. Attila's campaign in Italy was the culmination of a military campaign that reached the gates of Rome. However, a bold diplomatic move by Pope Leo I and resistance in the city marred Attila's victory. On the one hand, the campaign in Italy demonstrated the immense power and strategic capabilities of the Hun army, but on the other, it ended in utter failure and retreat. Attila's plans to conquer Rome were thwarted by the effective negotiations of Pope Leo and the determined resistance of the people of Rome. The city avoided complete surrender, and the sacred walls of Rome put up a resistance that defied Attila's predictions. Despite their respect for Rome's sanctity and historical significance, the Huns found it difficult to remain in a major city and decided to retreat in the face of local resistance and diplomatic maneuvering. Following this campaign, Attila briefly sacked various cities in Italy and destroyed some settlements. However, after this advance, Attila's military leadership and strategic thinking led him to recognize the long-term failure of this campaign. Rome's resistance and Pope Leo's diplomatic skill frustrated Attila's plans and forced the Hun army to retreat. Attila's retreat after his campaign in Italy was not only a military move, but also a strategic transformation. The Hun leader decided to retreat because of the difficulties and failures he faced in Rome and Italy. This decision was made for both military and logistical reasons. During the campaign in Italy, the Hunnic army had struggled mightily against Rome's defenses and local resistance. In addition, the Huns' logistical supply lines were under threat. The long duration of the war and the harsh conditions caused Attila's army to suffer from supply and resupply problems. This accelerated the Hun leader's decision to retreat and led to the failure of the campaign. Following the retreat, the strategic orientation of Attila's Hunnic Empire changed. Withdrawing from Italy, Attila reduced the Huns' influence in the west and focused on the internal workings of the empire. During this period, Attila appears to have made several strategic moves to strengthen the internal structure of the Hunnic Empire and to assert more firm control over the border regions. Attila's Italian campaign also affected the balance of power in Europe. The diplomatic relations between Rome and Byzantium and the Huns were reshaped after this campaign, and Attila's strategic orientations in Europe changed. The liberation of Italy and Rome from this campaign changed the political and military balance in Europe and allowed Rome and Byzantium to recover their power. The withdrawal of the Hun Empire from Italy also showed the limits of Attila's military and strategic skills. The removal of Rome and Italy from this major threat limited Attila's military successes and caused the Hun Empire to reconsider its future plans. Attila's unsuccessful campaign against Rome marked a turning point in his military career and left a significant mark on the history of the Hun Empire. Following Attila's Italian campaign, the power and influence of the Hun Empire had spread across Europe. However, Attila not only advanced to the gates of Rome, but also confronted the Eastern Roman Empire once again, setting off one of the most interesting military and diplomatic conflicts in history. This new conflict was of great significance on both a military and diplomatic level, and significantly changed the power dynamics in Europe during this period. Attila's renewed conflict with Eastern Rome was the result of many complex and intertwined causes. First of all, the expansion of Attila's Hun Empire and his victories in various parts of Europe threatened the security of the Eastern Roman Empire. Rome's sovereignty in this region was shaken by the rising power of the Huns. Attila's leadership posed a constant threat to the sovereignty of the Eastern Roman Empire. Attila's motivations for this campaign included Rome's movements in the west of the continent, the Hun Empire's desire to maintain its dominance in the region, and his goals of economic gain. The Eastern Roman Emperor had to develop various military and diplomatic strategies to balance the situation and eliminate the Hun threat. Attila's conflicts with Eastern Rome were a period of strategic and diplomatic moves between the two sides. During this period, Attila's strategic thinking and military moves tested Rome's resilience. Attila was able to weaken Rome's lines of defense by using the Hun Empire's military might and strategic capabilities. However, the Roman Empire's strong defense systems and diplomatic capabilities also played an important role in this process. The strategic moves of the Eastern Roman Empire increased the difficulties Attila faced in these campaigns. Rome employed various military operations and defensive strategies to block Attila's advance and push back the Huns. Rome's diplomatic efforts were also highly effective. The Byzantine Empire resorted to various negotiations and agreements to break the pressure of Attila's Hun Empire and to maintain its sovereignty in the region. Attila's renewed clashes with Eastern Rome had major military and diplomatic consequences. While there were some successes for the Hunnic Empire against Eastern Rome at the end of these conflicts, the long-term consequences of these conflicts were complex. Although Attila was successful in several campaigns, Eastern Rome's strong defenses and diplomatic maneuvering made it difficult for the Huns to achieve their long-term strategic goals. Following Attila's renewed conflicts with the Eastern Roman Empire, the strategic objectives of the Hun Empire were reshaped. Due to the difficulties and failures he faced in these wars against Rome, Attila had to revise his strategic plans and develop new strategies and moves. Come, my dear friends, let us take a journey from the dusty shelves of history to the sumptuous palaces of the Byzantine Empire. There was a time in Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, when the emperor made a great move of strategy and diplomacy. The great Byzantine strategist knew how to steer the war, not only militarily, but also through personal relationships. Helpless in the face of Attila's power, the Byzantine emperor decided to make a big move to balance this power. This move included the decision to marry the Byzantine emperor's daughter to Attila. Such a marriage would not only consolidate Attila's personal and political power, but also establish a new diplomatic relationship between the Byzantine Empire and the Hun Empire. The marriage symbolized the coming together of two great powers and, in this context, was an important step that influenced the future course of Attila's Hun Empire. The emperor's daughter was a figure representing the prestige and political influence of Byzantium. This marriage was considered not only the union of two great families, but also a political step that would determine the fate of two empires. The Byzantine emperor saw this marriage as a guarantee of alliance and security. It was intended as a counterbalance to Attila's Hun Empire and to tighten Byzantium's relations with this powerful enemy. But my friends, history teaches us that plans do not always succeed. Attila's wedding night was one of the most tragic and moving moments in our history. The marriage was celebrated with great pomp and splendor. The leader of the Hun Empire, Attila the Hun, had achieved a great political victory by marrying the daughter of the Byzantine Empire. And this wedding went down in history as one of the most glorious moments of the Hun Empire. However, this great night would unfortunately be the last night of Attila's life. While on the one hand the wedding celebrations were marked by great enthusiasm and pomp, on the other they led to great tragedy. Attila's wedding night, a night of great splendor and joy, sadly turned out to be the last night of his life. As the night wore on, Attila suddenly fell ill. A glorious wedding night quickly turned into a dark tragedy due to this health problem during the night. The Byzantine emperor is also said to be behind this death, which historical sources attribute to excessive alcohol consumption. It is said that the Byzantine emperor gave Attila his daughter to protect his country, and that his daughter poisoned Attila to death on the wedding night. My dear friends, as we focus on this important moment in history, it takes us on a historical journey to see how the death of Attila the Hun, who once ruled a great empire, had a huge impact on the Hun Empire at the time. Following Attila's death, the fate of the Hun Empire was thrown into great uncertainty and chaos. In this chapter, we will try to delve into the details of those dark days, the changes that took place in the Hunnic Empire, and their impact on the future of the empire. Attila's death was not only the loss of a leader, but also the shaking of the foundations of an empire. Attila had become a legend at the head of the Hun Empire. His presence represented a sense of power and order that pervaded every corner of the empire. However, his sudden and unexpected death left a deep hole in the empire. Following Attila's death, the Hun Empire was first plagued by internal turmoil. Immediately after Attila's death, there was great turmoil in the empire. Attila's death created great uncertainty in the internal structure of the empire. Attila's two sons, Bleda and Elak, struggled for the throne after their father's death. However, this struggle led to a great power vacuum in the central administration of the Hun Empire. After Attila's death, the rule of the Hun Empire turned into a power struggle. The struggle for the throne between Attila's two sons created a major conflict in the internal structure of the empire. Bleda, after his father's death, started a struggle to take over the leadership of the Hun Empire. However, this struggle meant not only internal turmoil, but also a period of opportunity for external enemies. During these internal conflicts, other important leaders of the Hunnic Empire developed various strategies to maintain power in their own regions and control the centralized administration of the empire. This led to the emergence of separate polities in various regions of the empire. Each region began to determine its own leader and strategy, which weakened the centralized power of the empire. After Attila's death, external threats also posed a great danger to the Hun Empire. Under Attila's strong and charismatic leadership, the Hun Empire had left many enemies behind. However, the weakening of the empire after Attila's death presented an opportunity for enemies to seize the opportunity. The Byzantine Empire, the Western Roman Empire, and other neighboring powers took advantage of the Hun Empire's internal turmoil to develop new strategies for their borders. The weakening of the Hun Empire also affected its military and diplomatic power. After Attila's death, the empire's military strategies and diplomatic relations were no longer as effective and powerful as before. Enemy attacks and internal conflicts weakened the Hun Empire's defensive capability and led to huge losses in the empire's territory. The turmoil and infighting that followed Attila's death set the stage for the long-term decline of the Hun Empire. Internal turmoil and external threats led to the weakening and eventual collapse of the empire. In the years after Attila's death, the territory of the Hun Empire was divided, and the empire was divided into various small kingdoms. This process led to the disappearance of the Hun Empire as a great power from the stage of history. Dear friends, the effects of Attila's death on the Hunnic Empire is not only the loss of a leader, but also an important story that helps us understand how the fate of an empire changed. Attila's sudden death left the Hun Empire facing internal and external threats, and this turning point in the empire's history occupies an important place in the depths of history. My dear friends, we have come to the end of a fascinating journey through the life of Attila the Hun, an unforgettable figure on the stage of history, and the story of the Hun Empire. We have explored in detail the life of this great emperor and the dynamics of the empire in his time. From Attila's rise to his efforts to expand the borders of his empire, from his struggle against internal and external threats, to the profound changes that followed his death, we have explored each stage with you. A legendary leader who etched his name in the history books, Attila displayed great skill not only on the battlefield, but also in the fields of strategy and diplomacy. Under his leadership, the Hun Empire became a giant power in the heart of Europe. However, the inexorable course of history inevitably leads even great leaders to be buried in the pages of history. After Attila's death, internal conflicts and external threats caused the Hun Empire to collapse and disappear from the stage of history. In this video, we take an in-depth look at the period from the peak of Attila's power to the collapse of his empire. While Attila's strategic genius, military successes, and diplomatic moves cemented his historical significance, the final years of his empire reveal how destructive the uncertainties and internal conflicts that follow a great leader can be. My dear viewers, this historical journey has shown us not only the life story of a leader, but also the birth, rise, and fall of an empire. Attila's life is a story not only of a period of time, but also of the limits of humanity in war, diplomacy, and governance. This story helps us to understand how a legend lost in the depths of history took shape and how its impact lasted for many years. As we conclude our video, I am delighted that we have given you the opportunity to open a window into the depths of history. If this story has moved you and you would like to learn more about history, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay up to date with our new videos. Having each and every one of you with us on this journey has made this historical discovery even more meaningful. We hope to meet you again in our next video with another important figure and event in history. I wish you all days full of light and inspiration so that you do not get lost in the depths of history. Goodbye, dear friends.